G'day everyone, welcome along, welcome to Steelhorse Station. Hope you have all had a great weekend. We are heading across to Vintage Oaks, which I'm quite excited about. Hopefully will go very well. Grant, I can see you there. I think there's someone else that pops in and out. But yeah, we're going to pick up. Thanks very much to Sim Brisco. We are going to pick up where John, welcome. We're going to pick up where about 12 years, give or take, on from where our original series on the Oaks left. So we have embraced the Oaks in all its glory, but not completely the same. So I will do a bit of an introduction for people that have no familiarity with the Putney family, and just to set the context of how we're going to do this. I'm trying, I mean, it's a big experiment on my part, so I've set this up, even though I'm playing single player, I've set it up in multiplayer, which I've not done before, so that's a learning experience in itself. But what that enables us to do, oops, wrong button, I'm going to do a bit of that tonight, I suspect, is we've got multiple farms. So our original stakeholders for the district, Harold and Ma Putney, of course, for any that remember, have 5 kids. And Harold was kind of a bit of an average farmer. He got himself into a bit of financial difficulty, big mortgage over their property, and it took some intervention from the 5 kids to get them out of that. So now 12 years on, of course, the kids that were sort of teenagers, you know, just turning 20 are now in their 30s, and they've got their own lives, and Harold and Ma have retired to a point. So let's sort of jump into the map. We're actually standing at Ringo's place, and I'll come back to that in a minute. Just over there is the farm, so Penny's Lane. But let's have a look at this beautiful map that Sim Brisco has blessed us with. So if you have got any familiarity with the original Oaks, and I have put the link to the new map, or at least to Sim Brisco's itch.io page in the description, as well as the link to the last series, or the original series, for anyone that wants to catch up on any of the Putney history. But if we look at the map, the basic, because it's a real area, the basic road layout hasn't changed. G'day, Mark. And what FSB has done is sort of encapsulate everything he's learnt since building this map and over the last year, or building the original Oaks, and he's sort of piled all of that into Vintage Oaks. And so a bunch of things stand out, but as they relate to us, so the original Putney farm was what is now labelled as Farm 19. So, well, in fact, it's called Putney Corner Farm. I hadn't even noticed that. Good on you, FSB. So in picking up the story, though, I'm just trying to remember. I've got my head full of trying to set it up and remember all the things I need to do, and actually tell the story at the same time. So apologies if I'm a bit all over the place, but I'm excited about what I'm doing. So there are multiple maps. So Putney Corner Farm was where we started, and in the original series, once upon a time, the Putney family had a big land holding, but they were down to just a few fields. And you might recall, by the time we last saw the Oaks, this was one field which we kind of were in the process of dividing into two ourselves. And these fields here were part of the holding. And the real tool of their recovery and getting Harold out of the difficulties that he was in was the silage business that they were able to set up and run with the bale store over here. So picking up on that thread, and with the fact that the kids are older, of course, there's still 5 kids, and they now have there's a separate storyline for each. And because I've set it up as multiplayer, what I'm thinking is that we'll start with 2-day months and we'll do 2 streams a week, but I'm hoping we can sort of move around the farms and do work from several perspectives, which on a map this big allows us to see more of the map, and but also explore some different storylines and challenges and always have something to do. So that's kind of the concept. Now, to the extent I can make that work, that all depends a bit on me learning what the vagaries of multiplayer are in terms of managing this sort of setup. But to introduce you to the layout, one small question, go for it, Grant. Fire away. I'll keep talking and watch for it to pop up. So 5 farms. So in essence, what happened in the ensuing 12 years is that John took over the management of the fields that were around the house. The trigger to move on, so just in here, so John's principal operation, he's been establishing a pig farm. So we'll have a look at that in due course. And he's generating most of the feed from the fields that they've got. When the kids convinced Harold to retire, they were able to get a buyer for their house who, interestingly, sort of in the habit of city folks, weren't that interested in the fields around, but they wanted all of the farm buildings. How has the family gone forward in time when the map has basically gone back in time? They had to go forward because otherwise there'd be a paradox. I couldn't come up with a way for them to go back in time and have it any sort of storyline work. And my own way of dealing with the map. So one of the things that I learnt streaming on the original Oaks was that as you expanded and the fields got bigger, it actually got harder. Harder to run the storyline. And what I really like about this map is that what he's done is sort of doubled the number of fields, with still allowing for some big fields. So I did think about going backwards, but then I also thought, well, not only, I'm struggling with any sort of modern understanding of the equipment, trying to populate and set up this map going backwards, quite frankly, I figured was just a little bit beyond my ability to maintain the threads and the stories. So I did discuss that choice with Sim Brisco, and he was cool. And we may, in fact, have a bit of a vintage element that will emerge a bit later on in the story. But for now, we've got plenty of work to do just establishing the characters. I thought it was an entirely reasonable question. I didn't think you were being a smartass at all, Grant. It perfectly allowed. So, John's farm is Strawberry Fields, which is here. Over just a little to the west, where you might recall we had the chickens. Bunch of things happened. Just weren't interested in the chickens. There was a bit of a bird flu thing. They had to put all the chickens down. None of the siblings were really interested in running them. So this has become Penny's sort of settlement of the way they divided everything up allowed her to buy a little bit more extra land, and so she set up Penny's Lane over here. Now, as it turns out, we'll have a look in a minute, but shares a house arrangement with Ma and Pa, which was how they sort of convinced them to get out, because she was rattling around in the big house they've got over there. So that's how they convinced them to get out of there. That's left Ma and Pa with some cash, and Penny's was always pretty interested in the cows, and so she sort of set herself up with some grassland and some cows. She's also the closest sibling to Ringo, and so she's kind of got a bit of arrangement. He owns the block at the front, and he set himself up as a bit of a contractor. He's always been far more interested in the trucks and the equipment than anything else, and he likes the variety of doing different jobs without feeling the need to own and run a farm himself. So he's built a little house in Penny's domain, and it works out really well because he's able to help out. Ringo's the only one that gets on with everyone, and therefore has the ability to access all their farms. George was always the businessman, so he was sort of instrumental in buying the sugar mill, and what he's done down there, we can probably jump down and have a look. So this is the sugar mill, which they still own and operate. The equipment's a little bit upgraded, although he lashed out and bought this Manitou forklift and can't for the life of him figure out how to get some forks that'll fit it. But he also has a bit of a yard here, and to house the equipment, he took over the beet harvesting equipment, because he liked the idea of vertically integrating his supply chain. And if we have a quick look at the map, George actually has a couple of fields for sugar beet down the bottom of the map here. He also owns let's have a look here. Yeah, there we go. A grass field just over the railway line. One of the things Sim Brisco's done is put a railway line in. And I'm just trying to remember, somewhere over in it might be in this street here. The cursor is in the middle of the map. He did give me directions. Anyway, in this general area is actually the house that the real life house that Sim Brisco grew up in, which I thought was pretty cool. So this is George's establishment. So let's have a look at the farms. So what do we got there? So yeah, George's farm is, here comes the sun. Ringo's got the octopus's garden. Penny's lane. Paul is the fool on the hill, which we'll talk about in a minute. And John has strawberry fields. So that's kind of the setup. As you can see, the cash balances are a bit all over the place. I'll come back to that shortly. Let's just talk about, so the black sheep, to an extent, the person who sort of gets along least with just about everyone is Paul. And he sort of, in his flexing with John, he decided that he should have the holding at the top of the map. So this was the original farm that they bought branching out there, where they were trying to run some cows and get access to the land in the top of the map. So he owns 3 fields and quite a lot of vehicles, but he's a bit of a lazy bugger, and he gets distracted by bright shiny things and cars, and as we'll find out later, he's doesn't really understand. He's got a lot of the traits that got his father into trouble, I suspect, and so as a consequence, he has a few problems that we're going to have to figure out how to sort out. But that's basically the rub of it at the minute. Contracts are obviously active, although our main contract worker is probably going to be Ringo. Everybody else is going to have plenty of work to do on their own farms. That's an idea of the map. Train, I think I mentioned. Sell points are largely sprinkled around the edge of the map. That's a BGA. We've got a contract up there at the minute. If there's any questions about the map sing out, let's go and have a bit of a look at some of the holdings. So we jump back to, oops, it's going to take a little while. I do want to keep saving because it's a bit of a new experience for me. Where am I trying to get to? I want to go there. Right. So this is Ringo's domain. So he's got a sort of bits and pieces. He has collected a little bit of grass there that needs to be turned into silage. He does transport the cows for Penny when she needs them. And he's still in the grass maintenance business as required. Does have storage for crop, although hasn't had much call to use it so far. I think he's done a terrific job, and I have made some changes. Well, I haven't made changes so much as I've moved in. So, you know, like this house wasn't here, but if you look at this area, this is what it looks like. He's done lots of neat little touches. So here's a good example. So if we go into this landscaping mode, first thing you'll notice if you look at landscaping is he's got hundreds, well, not hundreds, but many textures. And as best I can tell, he's gone to particular effort. I certainly haven't discovered one to make sure that all the textures he's used on the map are available, even down to he's got this sort of scored farmcrete, he calls it, surface, but it's the direction it's scored kind of depends on the way it's laid in the buildings where he's used it. So he's gone to the trouble of putting several orientations in so that if you're trying to match with the building that you've put down, because he's included all of the buildings that he's used, you can actually make the paths match. So for instance, this shed wasn't there, I've added that. This bunker wasn't here, I've added that, but these ones were. So done a really good job. The other thing that he's done is these are dotted around the place are piles of stuff, piles of rubble, and he's got a negative price, so to affect that, you know, well, if you want someone to come and take it away for you, it's going to cost you 160. So you can remove the rubbish on an individual basis round the map, which is fabulous. But equally important, if you say you think, oh, well, it kind of makes sense that there's a pile of rubble there, I just don't want it there because I want to put my shed there, and can we sort of have it at the edge of the shed? Well, he's been thoughtful enough to include lots of the items that he's used as decoration, there's the rubble, in the decor. So you can, again, continue the consistency of how the map's decorated. FSG, welcome in. It is an absolute beauty and I'm loving it. So we're just reacquainting everybody with the Putneys, and we're just having a look at, this is Penny's Lane. You're probably not familiar with the Putney family FSG, but they were the original streaming series we did on the original map, and Ma Putney was the Beatles tragic, so her 5 children are John, Paul, George, Ringo and Penny. Anyway, 12 years on, and they've developed their own farms and are having a good time. So anyway, this is Penny's new cow shed, well, relatively new, and down the road over here, and I just love what he's done with the tracks. This is the house that Penny moved her parents in. So there and there you can see, you might recognise from the original series, Harold's still got the Defender. And then up the road here, that's Penny's actual house herself. So she lives up there. And then she's got all these grass fields here, which, to be honest, need a little bit of work and sorting out. So we'll get to that in due course. I always find it easier to tell a story if I've got some sort of place to inject my imagination, FSG. So this is Penny's place. If we jump across and have a look at, in fact, what we need to do is get some work happening on John's place. So let's just change farms for a sec. I'm still coming to terms with the fact that I've got to be in the right farm. There we go. Now I can go to there. If some of you folks that are a bit more experienced with multiplayer have any clues of how I could make this work a little more seamlessly, I'm happy to hear it. But yeah, this is This is John's farm, Strawberry Fields, and he's gotten right into pigs. So there's several pens and sties down here, not fully populated. She's just trying to get the feed volumes up. I wouldn't say I've outright got a problem mark so much as there might be things that I can do which I am not aware of. So it was more just a request. If you see me doing things the hard way, it's because I'm not familiar with necessarily multiplayer and other options that might be available to me that I haven't thought of. So far, I think I've got it sorted. So I've certainly got all the farms set up. I've given Ringo contractor access to all the farms so he can drive all the equipment. And, you know, I'm kind of working it out as we go. So there's where the pigs are at. There's a cool little yard here. And if you kind of get the idea, we've extended down the hill. We do have some beets there. It's quite a collection of equipment, some of it from before, some of it John's graded. He has a bit of a habit of buy first, think about whether he needs it later. But you kind of get the idea. This is up the top of the hill here is the old yard. And I haven't thought to... yeah, there you go. I haven't sought to turn it into exactly the yard that the Putneys had built here, but you kind of get the idea. This is where it was situated. I put a couple of things back in it, and I'm still working through sort of placing the equipment. But you get the idea of the job that FSB's done here. It's just fabulous. I thought that might be the case, and that's why I've kind of gone. So our loose family scenario here is that 4 of the kids pretty much get on, being John, George, Ringo and Penny. And it's not outright war with Paul, but he doesn't work hard enough to create a problem. So in fact, well, let's just jump to, so the essence of the problem scenario is best looked at on, oh, I can't do it on one screen. How about that? Okay, so we'll walk through it on 4 screens. So everybody's got a loan except Ma and Pa, who are sitting on a cash balance. So you can see John's loan there is about 800 grand. It's a long-term mortgage. If we jump through Paul's. So Paul, as you can see, has been spending and borrowing and spending and borrowing, and he's in a big pile of trouble. So he's got a 30 grand monthly repayment, which, as you can see, he's not going to make. So he has land and a farm, and we'll go up there and have a look at that in just a second. But he's basically going under and drowning. If we go and have a look at, let's have a look. George, the businessman, he's in fairly reasonable shape. Right, so 600k, he's got a business. As long as we can keep the sugar beet up, there'll be a good sugar income and quite a serviceable debt level. He's got a couple of fields of sugar beet in the field. Oh, and he's also got a pig food production down there, which I forgot to mention. So he can make pig food from all of the crops, and that's kind of goes to the point that you're making about harvested grains. I just thought that might be a bit easier than necessarily trying to balance all the crops into so many pig pens. I didn't show you that when we were down there before, but that's, you get the idea. And so that's George. He's also got a fairly healthy at the minute cash balance. Our contractor Ringo is doing pretty comfortably because he's, apart from the equipment and the trucks, he has quite a manageable loan, and so that's sort of a contract a month will comfortably cover his equipment, and he's got no other real outgoing costs. And Penny is the last one to look at. Where are we? It's the summary, yeah. So Penny's Lane. And Penny's quite conservative as well. And when you think she's got about 100, yeah, 108, oh, sorry, 240 head of cattle, of which about half are producing milk. She's able to generate a reasonable amount of milk income to cover her costs. So it's really our good friend Paul that's the issue. So let's jump up and have a look at Paul's place while we're continuing the tour. So this is Paul's place. You can see he likes the finer things automotive. You know, a completely unnecessary bike and sidecar, hot rod, some transport vehicles. Equipment is just sort of here or thereabouts. I think that's actually Ringo's, but we'll come back to that at another stage. Once upon a time there were cows on this farm, but they were way too much work, and so he's got rid of those. So nothing happening in the cow sheds. He's got a crop in the ground pretty much because John planted it for him, but as you can see, it's hard to see the crop for the weeds, and the other fields look pretty similar. So he also has the original equipment somewhere around here. There's another, oh, there's another harvester poking out down there. So it's not all impossible, but it's not great, as you can see. A bit of a messy proposition down here. But let's not worry about that, the doom and disaster story for the moment. Let's head back. Let's do a couple of things. Let's get Ringo's doing a where are we here? Ringo is doing a contract down here. So has he got, he's out there. So let's get him going. He's using Paul's lime, so let's head you back there. And while he's doing that, so if you're not familiar with the map, he's down here in the right, bottom right corner. Grant, currently trying to find out why my Vintage Oaks shuts off Farm Sim Oh. So I haven't had that problem, but just seeing a message from FSB before, by any chance, have you taken out any trees? The reason being, I have heard from FSB, one of the things that he did to make the map suit the look he wanted was that he changed some of the tree models, and it has emerged that the way he is bundled them, there is a bug where if you take the wrong tree, it prevents loading. Yeah, I think it was, so that was the question I put to him, Grant, because deleting trees is probably the same as cutting for the purposes of what it's doing to the base game. Now, I don't know any more than that about it. I certainly don't have a fix. The idea I have left on his Discord for him to consider, and Mark might be a better person to help him, or someone with a bit more skill than me in the community, was that, because he's kind of, you know, do I have to take all the trees off the map and redo them again because of the way he's done it? My interim suggestion was, would it be possible to mark the diffuse texture for the particular tree that you messed with, and so that they've got like a coloured ring at the bottom of the trunk, so that at least people can see what they are. Red non-texture bugs. So they've already got something that helps you identify them. But beyond that, why didn't you go into the farm? Hang on a tick. Hang on, sport. Where are you going? Have I got you going to the wrong location? It would appear so. Catch up. 183, Paul's lime load, top load. What are you doing all the way down here, champ? You are nowhere near where you're supposed to be. G'day. Cyrillic script will not be particularly useful to you in here, I'm afraid. English only, champ. If you must. But welcome all the same. Nice to have you. I've got no idea why he came down here. Let's just have a look. It's the first thing that's odd. No, you're right. Auto connect start. Oh, they keep going back to ground. So, yeah, so there's the course. You should have come in the gate. You did it perfectly before. That's another thing that could cause games to load. Yeah, I'm in trouble if you don't, Jason. Let's have a look. Now, you should fill. Now that we're on the correct course. From the little I know, it's much more likely to be the tree thing, and I haven't run into that problem because I haven't. Well, I set myself a task to try and set this up as much as I could using the map that he built and playing it kind of the way he intended rather than not. And so I've probably just been lucky that I haven't run foul of deleting the wrong oak tree. But I can imagine how frustrating that would be. What I have found is surprisingly few bugs and issues. Oh, there you go. I can't quickly give you the ability, well, unless you can easily paste it in. If it won't let you paste in the reference, Farm Sim guy, could you get it to Mark? And he has the ability to affect what we've got here. Let's go up the road here. I thought this was a good opportunity for trying out this vehicle that entered the game that I hadn't used before while I was on hiatus. Welcome everybody that's popped in. Great to have you here. Thanks, Mark. But as you can see, John's got a couple of fields that need harvesting. So one of the things I like about what Brisco has done, and you can see it if you take a look at both FSG and Argsy have done terrific reviews with some good differences between them. So obviously they're both ridiculously skilled at cinematics and all of that good editing stuff, but they've also in their walkarounds talked about some different aspects of what Farm Sim Brisco has done and how the map works, so it's worth having a look at both of them. Love the way the electric good gauge. Not at all. Editing skill where, and credit where it's due, FSG. I just, having attempted to do little bits myself, I recognise firstly how much work and skill goes into it, because I just don't have the mind to be able to think of the shots, let alone knit them together in the way you guys do to paint the picture. Just, whoops, I'm doing that very poorly. But as I was about to say, on this map, oops, that wasn't very cleverly done, was it still? You should stick to talking about it rather than actually doing it. It's off. We'll move the truck and the trailer out of the way. So what I was about to say that I liked was the fact that a lot of the hedges have gone, and he's replaced them with these earth berms, which I understand from looking at shots he's shown me of the district is how a lot of the fields in the real area are delineated, and it works really well because it makes it much easier to contemplate using larger equipment, even if this lane's not a terribly good example. But most of the fields have big accessible openings, and you can see here, right? So there's no tight pernickety gate to get through. So you can get, even though this isn't one of the larger fields, if we look on the map here, you know, this is actually quite a small field by comparison, but most of the fields have a couple of entrances, and they give you the ability to run reasonable size equipment to those to the field. So if you want to play with mid to large equipment, you can absolutely do so. What am I doing here? Let's try putting that down. And let's try a swath. This we're going to need it. Penny will probably need the straw. And if you just compare the view of the landscape, because of the effort he's put into the decor, it's just amazing. It's his the edges of the map are really well disguised. Now you have to work quite hard to figure out where they are. As you've been able to see, performance is fine. Argsy talks a little bit about that in his review. So frame rates, even though it's a 4x map, are fine. I'm running well over 300 mods here without any difficulty at all. Yes, I've got a moderately meaty configuration, but equally I'm streaming in HD at the same time, so works a treat. I certainly think we'll have no difficulty doing through a few weeks exploring the map and developing the Putney family story. Even if Grant thinks I should have gone back in time. FSG, if you're still there, if you get a spare microsecond at some point, I did send you a message on Discord a couple of months ago, and that offer stands should you ever wish to take it up in the future. I realise that you must get a ridiculous number of messages, which is why I didn't pursue it. Just wanted to let you know it was there. No worries. I started in Farm Manager, but I set up in multiplayer. Right, so instead of taking the career option, take the multiplayer option, set up multiplayer. And the only learning experience for me was I had to remember then, when I resume my game, to go back and start multiplayer, because if you start in career mode a game that you've set up in multiplayer, it merges everything together into a single farm, which if you're half asleep and hit the button faster than reading, you only make that mistake once because you screw everything up. I was able to move most of the farm vehicles from the original Putney farm. So there's Putney, the original Ma and Pa Putney's house. You can see it's had a bit of a facelift with the new yuppie owners from the city. Looks a little bit different, but the cash they generated from selling the house will look after them nicely in their retirement. Something to put this grain in, I think. We're doing that. Which farm are we in? I'm in Ringo, so if I have a look, has it actually resumed that contract or not? I haven't been watching. What's he done over there? No is the answer. How bizarre. You got a full load, yep. You should be fine from there. Right, leave that there for now. Let's go back here. Yes. The only downside of connecting Ringo to all of the farms is that if I attempt to scroll through the vehicles, I get all the vehicles. Even if... What am I doing down here? Oh, because I'm in the wrong farm, that's why. That'll do it every time. Now, which CB16, what do we got here? Might take you. Let's pop up the top. That might just be it mightn't have made it onto his Discord. Yeah, that could just be a message he sent to FSG. I certainly don't know. What prior to starting the stream, I had no information about a fix. He was very concerned about the problem that existed. So hopefully more specifics will be forthcoming. There's always a chance he might pop in when he gets his coffee break. He sometimes does that, so if so, we can ask him. He does have a day job other than building gorgeous maps. Strange as that may seem. Church got a bit of a facelift. You notice as you drive past, there's a bit of a sparkle on the stained glass windows in a couple of the churches. I haven't been into the graveyard to see if he's dusted off the headstones or not. sounds like it leaves a, when you do a deletion from whatever the group is, it must leave an artifact without a link in one of the GRLE files, and so I'm guessing that the save game fix will be knowing which file it is to just replace that in your current save game. But without more specifics, it really is speculation. What I would say though is if it's known what the problem is, we should be able to get you back on the air, Grant, within the next 24 hours. I'm impressed. I've got through the first hour of the stream without mentioning that yesterday's Grand Prix, or this morning's Grand Prix, depending on when you watched it. Wonderful result for McLaren. I thought it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. And yes, I agree. But I'm frequently embarrassed by the child man that is Max. I don't think it was a fiasco at all. I thought it was actually a really interesting series of moments for McLaren as a team, and both of the drivers. And whilst I mean, it's easy to be parochial. But I think on reflection, Oscar is enough of a pragmatist to know he was a little bit lucky. And what I mean by that, it's not that, I mean, he worked really hard, he raced really well. The team made a team decision, pulled him in, and the reason that it was close and there was any issue to manage was because he'd made a mistake. And it was a pretty significant mistake on a track that could easily have spat him into the wall. So, you know, plenty of folks have had that experience, and he got off, you know, to walk away with the win despite that is one thing. That said, he was racing really well, and if he'd pitted first, it wouldn't have been an issue. So I think the person who stands to benefit the most, although it probably doesn't feel like it at the minute, is Norris, because there's no doubt in my mind he's going to get close to the championship, and to do that he's going to need a team. It must have been very tough for him. And I think what he did, not only what he did, but how he did it. So he demonstrated that he is the senior driver. There's no question he's faster than Oscar at the minute. but also he demonstrated something else, which is that actually it's going to be a lot easier to beat Max with a team. Yeah. But if you think about it, if you've got a teammate that now knows that you're a man of your word, then he's more likely to run that interference. And if they can consistently be 2 up against Max instead of 1 up, he's going to be in more chances to close the gap. And if he knows his teammate is good enough to take a position off Max, that's even better. So I think there were lots of positives out of it, and it gave the TV commentators something to natter on about. Yeah, well, he was just... That was actually, in my mind, he signalled the likelihood that that was going to happen right off the starting line. He decided well before he got to the first corner that he was just going to steam round the outside, and if he ended up off the track, he was going to argue that he had nowhere else to go, because it's safe to drive round there if it's congested. There was no chance of contact, and he gained a position. And if everybody had listened to him, he would have kept the position. So, to me, that was just the tone that he set right from the outset. Yeah, I think it's... I certainly hear you. I think the world's a bit different, and I think Norris is a bit different. I think he will. Because I think he'll use it as fuel to not be in the same position again. But time will tell. You've seen a lot more racing drivers than I have. Oh, absolutely. Well, it was just a simpler version of last week, right? Or the week before. When was Silverstone? How long ago was that? You know, they made a team decision to try and maximize their chances for both. I just think the behaviour of the team in general is far more akin to learning. They haven't got the arrogance that others appear to have, without naming any at this point. The big question is, are they going to put Liam straight into a Red Bull seat? big question is, why haven't I seen Ringo come past? Unless he's finished down there. He might have. That might be the reason. Yeah, teams make mistakes, drivers make mistakes. Could be worse. He could be with Ferrari. I reckon there's going to be a bit of a culture clash there when Lewis arrives. Righty-ho, we're powering through, so we will have some grain, which is good. So you found your way back to where the problem tree was. Based on the fact we know there's some sort of way out of that situation, you might want to put aside the interim backups, because there may be a way to fix those and not lose however far back you've had to go to get one to boot. And as I said, there is a reasonable chance that FSB will pop in for at least a minute or two when he has his coffee break. Now, the only thing is I don't know what time that will be, but it is a chance. Okay, so let's just zip straight across here. Funny little stripe in the middle of the field there. Cool, that sounds promising. Mark, since you downloaded the that Weasel development aids the other day. Does your mod launcher give you a message telling you that it's detected a potentially dangerous script that it doesn't recognize? Ah, there you go. Well, that might be good extra information. Almost finished here, which is good. We had a very pleasant day yesterday. Christmas in July, hosted by my sister, so it's quite a nice surprise. Roast with all the trimmings and Christmas pud. Doesn't get much better than that. Sleep schedule can return to normal because the Tour de France is now over. Well, yes, I'm not going to get up early to watch the Olympics. That strikes me as pointless. We're going to get that whole tank in there. I think we might. Max, wait, why are you not unloading? Did I turn you off? No. Yes, she did a very nice job with her. It was roast chook on this occasion. Now it's at max weight now. I'm not going to have enough room to fit all of that. So we might just... Yeah, I've got to remember to turn the engines off, because otherwise I'm going to use through a hideous amount of fuel. I guess Ringo must have finished that contract field, because we haven't seen him back and he was stopped. Ah, very good. Yes, this was all handmade. My parents were there as well. Son and his partner, along with Mrs. Steele, so it was Pleasant day, head boil. Now, let us. Probably just as easy to whack. We do have a. Oh, that's where the grain truck was. Okay. So he does have a grain truck. Come on, John. A few more eggs. So, one of the things FSB did with these buildings, I know this isn't a this is a push unloader, but he's made them just a little bit taller in the hope that people can use tipper trailers without getting caught on the doors. So at first glance they look a little bit bigger, but it does mean that he's really thought about how he's laid the buildings out and just given the average player half a chance to work in the yards. Anytime, Grant. We had chicken Kiev for dinner. That was pretty good too. It's well past beer o'clock where you are, Grant. You could just tuck into a liquid dinner. Yeah, I can safely report there were no leftovers of significance for yesterday's feed. The carcass of the chook was picked clean. Oh, that's not good. Well, I hope they go well, Grant. Always a bit of a lottery. A bit of a, well, what I refer to as a frequent flyer card for the blood test place myself at the moment. But so far so good. Oops, a bit of a lump in the field there. This in the bin. In terms of setup, you've sort of got a bit of a flavour for Yeah, I know what you mean. And I kind of had a couple of years the other way where they kept telling me there was nothing wrong with me, but I didn't feel like right. So turns out there was. But there's always folks that are much worse off, so just work at it. So what I was about to say, so the settings I've gone for currently are 2-day months on the basis that allows us to get across the sort of the 4 or 5 farms and progress a month every week. Whoops, I was going to do this bit before I go down there. I'm just guessing a bit at what the right pace is to make it interesting to follow along in the streams and to have enough variety of activity. I'm hoping by the fact that, you know, the kids have got sort of broad, there was some basic specialisation. So, you know, we've got a contractor, we've got a pig farm, we've got a sugar factory beet producer, pig food producer, you know, we're cropping, and we've got a cow farm that we can sort of cover all of the interesting bases and preserve the ability to throw in the odd bit of test equipment as and when the opportunity pops up. But if people have got suggestions, I absolutely could. That's a good suggestion, good example. I hadn't thought of doing that, but yes, I could. Yeah, so we could kind of put that'd be an interesting concept. I might work about sort of like a video between streams to only needs to be the summaries. Oops, I didn't guess that quite right. It was close. Yeah, potentially. One way that might work would be, just depending on how we go as things develop, if we end up with 3-day months, we sort of stream the first day and the last day of the month, and then the work in the middle might fit. Similarly, we might find that some months are busier than others, and we stream a month and then have a video for a month. Yeah, okay, I can work with that concept. I certainly, you know, once I started getting into setting upon here, it was sufficiently absorbing, particularly trying to keep track of 4 farms and all the different equipment, that made it really hard for me to think about Panya or Silver Run Forest. And in fact, the more I sort of got into this map, the more I thought, actually, I just want to play I want to explore this idea of playing multiplayer as a single player. Yeah, we could do that. It wouldn't hurt to dust off the editor and practice a bit of my editing. I certainly know I need it. And just once Farm Sim Brisco allowed me to have a look at them, and I did it was really interesting. I did my first look at it. I literally opened it up and I grabbed a Defender and I drove around, and my first impression, I think I told Farm Sim Brisco, I can't recall, but because I came over here. Let's turn that off because that's a bit noisy. I came over here and I saw that he'd reskinned Putney Corner, and at that stage he didn't tell me that he was going to name it Putney Corner. In fact, I didn't see that until the stream started tonight, and it just felt like, because everything looked coming down this way. Everything kind of looked the same and better, so more realistic, more lived in, except that the building was, and it was a real weird feeling. It's like, because I had so many hours invested in the original Putneys personally, and so I didn't know how I felt about it. And then I went back to the yard up here and I got the first look at the buildings that he'd created, so that you didn't need to download any mods. So if anyone that's watching this for the first time, he's done most of the buildings, the sheds himself, and they're embedded in the map. And if I didn't show it earlier, he's included them all, so you can add his buildings. But coming in cold, particularly coming off Panya, well, the first thing I noticed was that they were just slightly oversized or scaled up, and they felt big, which my first impression was, oh, gee, that feels a bit odd. But then as I started to move around, and then when I sort of made the decision, okay, I want to see if I can set up a series for the next generation Putneys. Once I began, all of a sudden it was so immersive. I started out setting up John's farm over there, Strawberry Fields, and before I know it, I had 15 hours in the map, and I hadn't even finished setting up the first 2 farms. It was wonderful. I'm really enjoying it. So that's when I said to him, when might it be available to stream? Can I help you test it at all? And particularly as he was agonizing over, do we release it for before FS25, or do I just wait and upgrade it to FS25? And it's like, oh, this is cool. So I'm glad he's released it. I'm glad he put all the effort in, and the fact that I was able to jump right in, and notwithstanding, we talked earlier about the issue that grants obviously run into. I haven't had, through the setup process, I had two issues. The first of them had nothing to do with the map whatsoever. It was a mod conflict I introduced myself, and it was only because I had over 300 mods that it just took me a little while to figure out what it was. And once I took it out, never missed a beat. The second issue, which I think the save on his itch file is now fixed, related to the BGA, and again wasn't really a map issue. It's that weird situation when the land from the BGA is defined for different ownership. Oh, what am I coming down here for? I need to go back there, don't I? Although we are going to want to put some more in the pigs. Or do any of the pigs need wheat? Although if I put all the wheat in here, we're not going to have enough wheat for that. What I should do, I have defined it. What I should do is send you so that's Paul's house there, by the way, if you hadn't noticed before. Not Paul's house, John's house. Lovely place he's built. That's why his mortgage is a little bit bigger than the rest. That's our field over the road there. You can see what he's done with the lane here. Now, George's yard, we want to go to Big Food Factory, unload inputs. Right, let's go back and see what Ringo's been up to. Why do I have a sneaking suspicion why did you not go? Something odd happening there. So is the map you're setting the stream up on a secret, Mark? Or are you allowed to do an ad? I certainly don't mind it. Oh, it's for Hubbard. Okay. I haven't looked at that yet, but for those of you that hadn't seen it, Hubbard's a 16x map that FSG just did a preview of. What are you doing now? You've got nothing in you. Okay. Cool. It'll take a while to get around. It's 200 horse limit. $200 horse combine. What have we got here? Right, so you're in Rostelmash territory, or the old I don't think I go back. I haven't loaded any of that particularly old. I haven't loaded any of the vintage mods really at this point. I will, because I have we'll end up there in the story, so I don't mind a little teaser for that. You'll never get up the hills. So make sure you put the chain and rope mod on, and you can go 2 up on the tractors. Or that tow, the tow rod. So the plan here is that somewhere down the track, if we can solve for everyone's financial challenges at the minute, it's quite reasonable that they might get into a position where an opportunity comes up to buy out one of the one of Harold's friends, an aging couple that are running an old school spread somewhere. I haven't quite decided where or what the circumstances that will be, but I'm pretty comfortable I know the guy, because he figures if it was built this century, it's not worth paying for. So that will be the opportunity to find and experiment with some interesting stuff, and that'll add another farm into the mix. I just haven't decided where that gets to. Oh, that's a bit harsh. There's only 3 watching the minute. I do get up. In fact, we got 300 hits on last Monday's, or 300 views, and now that could have been 30 of you watching, hitting it 10 times and watching it in installments. Why are you coming down here? There is no reason. Well, there is a reason, but I just can't think what it is. Where the hell are you? That's really bizarre. You're not in the way, so unless you are, unless the back of the trailer's caused you to. It's always a chance. Very bizarre. Okay, right, that's that field done. Will eventually get back and put lime in his spreader. Why don't we duck in next door? That field is ready to harvest, isn't it? Yes. We can at least get the other crop off. Brick fence opposite a telegraph pole, the natural enemy of the header. One of the challenges I think John's going to have is keeping enough food up to those pigs. The pigs will make good money. No straw on here, John. It's canola. But good question. I did. Oh, no, I do. No, I haven't. I usually have the other problem where, well, like we do on Putney, where I've got, or Silver Run Forest Farm, where we've got, you know, 1 million litres of straw and nothing that we can do with it. Oh, that was a question I had for you, Mark. If I just... I can't do it there because I'm on Ringo rather than George. I'm supposed to be on John, but never mind. Who's driving Ringo's truck? That's what we need to know. The question I was going to ask is there a way in productions Yes, there is a mod that uses... I was trying... There's plenty of generous mods that make pig food. What I was going for was something that was just a kind of a balanced option. Oh, I need George, don't I? Let's hang on a tick. In order to look at the production, I need... So I took this flour and feed factory, which had one pig food recipe, which is pretty standard. And then I just duplicated it to provide all of the variations that go with sugar beet. So basically, you know, it's corn, wheat or barley, and canola, sunflowers, soybeans. And so they're all kind of mixed in, but they're all basically the same recipe. My question mark was where you've got the same recipe, but you've got alternate components. How do you, is there a way to code the formula to say, well, I've got 3 options for the second ingredient. I've got 2 options for the third ingredient, rather than having to put 8 different recipes. I couldn't figure it out if there is one, but that doesn't mean there isn't a way to do that. It's certainly not just listing multiple fill types. Yeah, each one has to be product in the center. All right, cool. That's where I landed. I just haven't given them a different name. I will, when I get round to it, modify it so you can tell what the actual ingredients are without having to click on it, so you know which one you're running. And while we're there, let's just... So that's the... And that's not a good sign, because I sent my tractor down here to deliver, and he hasn't arrived, which he should have. But that's the factor, and I thought it was fitted well in this area and worked fine. So the question is, where is the tractor load of grain that I sent down here? Because he has not arrived. Looks like Ringo's finally heading back. There's me. Huh. That's not promising. Doesn't look like he's stuck. We'll have to go and investigate that afterwards. I'm tipping he got in trouble somewhere near the pig farm. Somewhere down the bottom here would be my guess. Never mind. Yeah, I thought about doing that, Mark, and then I thought actually at the volumes I want, it sort of helps to have a production, and I quite liked the way that mill stood with the stacks and the towers, and it sort of fits with George running a production business. So that's what I went with. And that way, once we get a store there, he can just deliver it to John, and it'll be fine. Why? Why am I not able? Why can't I select anything? I'm in John's farm. No. Right, that's better. Let's see if we can... Oh, you got close. You're just on the other side of the road. Why couldn't I see you on that? You got caught up by the corner because I've parked it. Forklift in the wrong spot. That would do it every time. Could also have been the pallet. Yeah, so the other reason I like this was that it meant that as our farming operations grew, we didn't necessarily need to put silos everywhere either, which it felt more sort of in keeping with the British countryside, to not have a massive proliferation of silos. Now you should be able to get back to Paul's yard on your own. Yes. Speaking of which, speaking of pesky, let's solve that problem while we're down here. Let's go back into there. Because I couldn't figure it out. It's a good time of the stream to be seeking technical support. Alright, so I got this Manitou MC25, right? It's in the right farm, I own it, and set a front loader forks, which I also own. Do you reckon I can attach front loader forks? Now, if I go to the Manitou, is it in front loaders? No. There it is. All right. And so it's just front loader attacher, it says. There doesn't seem to be any difference other than the mast length. If I come out of there and say, oh, what combines with it? Wheel loader, John reckons. Doesn't look like a wheel loader hitch though. But if that's the case, we have sitting over there a set of wheel loader forks. It's possible I didn't try wheel loader. I tried different flavors of, or maybe I did try wheel loader. Maybe that's what I started with. Maybe that's why I've got wheel loader forks. No joy. Nope. The separate Manitou forks that you buy, where do you find them? I looked, but I could have had my boy eyes on. Front loader tools. Look from the mod shop category. Is this the one you mean, Mark? So what comes in the pack, I assume, is what you... I did not think of that. That's certainly a new... But I can't see it scrolling down there either. Just... Manitou, there it is. Ah! So where are they? Let's buy those. What category are they in? Huh? Misc. Ah, right at the end of Misc. I didn't look there. How about that? I knew my intelligent watchers would be able to solve that. So if I now go there, back to the store. We haven't been up to the store. Let's do that. Big yardies put in here. We could have them delivered, but we won't. I'll be hiding all the way over here somewhere. Now, the tricky thing, we're on a 4x map, so if I... that's the wheel loader. Let's position it there and hope. Where did they go? Always the $64 question. It is a fantastic shop yard. It's got one little quirk. They're on the roof by any chance? Come on, what did I do with them? They're not the ones. Right. The only trouble with 4X maps and teleporting. Let's turn you off. Turn you off. Turn trailers and combines and vehicles. Ah, right. That's not them. That's not them. That's them. They are just to my left somewhere here. There they are. That was well hidden. Nothing like camouflaging them in the beat pile. Right, Ray, one problem solved. Okay. We'll park you out of the way over here. Thank you. Okay, while we're doing technical support, let's do the next one. Where is... wrong guy. Ringo's truck. I can sell the other ones. I'll sort all of that out later. That will generate a smallest amount of cash. Right, sorry, so let's go to Ringo. Yes. Now, you... I don't want to sell you. Where are you? I thought you were at the top of the map, but... Where have you gone? There you are. So this is the 754 that the original Putney farm had. These are the exact same attachments. Do you reckon I can attach them? Yeah, I've got invoices on. You just send it to me. When I get it in email, I'll forward it to accounts payable. Bring up the F1 menu. It is not giving me any options, which is very bizarre. Can I move the fifth wheel forwards and backwards with the mouse? That's a good question. No. Yeah, I can't. It doesn't. There is no option to. I'm pretty sure the fifth wheel's not adjustable on this. But I'm wondering if I have to put it in a workshop and actually take the, because there is a version of the, yeah, possibly, John. I'll come back to what I was just about to show, but it doesn't make any difference. I've got several backs for it. So, which ones? I might have that one back to front. There's every chance. Get out. I got that back to front? No, I haven't. I'm wondering, might go under there for the minute, if I need to do, I've just completely forgotten. It was so long since we were on here. So that's how it comes standard. I'm wondering if I actually need to take the semi attacher off in order to fit it. The design stuff doesn't do anything. It's the only thing, because I think the last time I used it, I might have had it towing the bale trailer. Now, the only problem I've got is I've got a sneaking suspicion that contractor writes there is a workshop trigger, but I don't think yeah, I can't. I'm pretty sure there's a workshop trigger there. Yeah, there is. But I can't, it's not his workshop. Oh, that was another multiplayer question I had. Is there an easy way to move vehicles between farms? The way I've been doing it at the moment is editing the vehicles placeable. I've got a sneaking suspicion it's not going to work in the workshop down at the... I think I might have tried this already. Down at the vehicle shop. Don't think it'll let me customize. I figured there'd be a way to do it. Works with bales and pallets as well. Cool. Where's the trigger? There it is. I can service it, but I can't customize it, which is a bit bizarre. The only last thing I can try let's go actually back to his place. I don't think the trigger is outside the door. Yeah, I found it. Thank you, Stratus. Welcome. Now, did I push the workshop down here? Not yet. Let's do it this way. Makes sense that there would be a better workshop, but for the moment this will do the trick. On there. Just sit over against the wall like so. You need to park the vehicle outside the door. Oh, okay. But, well, no, so it was... I will try it. Because my understanding is, there we go, I can customize it here. Let's just... Oops. Well, at least you've done a test. Right, attaches. Let's take the semi-trailer. Hitch off. I don't want the front 3-point. What am I doing? Standard, customize. The warning stripes on the floor are just decoration. Well, that's interesting because when I took something there before to service it, it allowed me to service the vehicle inside. But we will go back, and I am happy to be demonstrated to be wrong. Let's just jump back because we're running out of time. What am I doing here? I want to be... Dude. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Stratus. Good job. So when I came before, it was interesting. I parked inside and I was able to service a vehicle inside. Cool. Right, let's go and see. I wonder if maybe I had just a smidge of either the nose, I can't remember what vehicle it was, the front or the back poking out into the trigger box, and that's just created the illusion of me being able to do it inside. It's all right. I think it's wonderful. Really like it. I'm glad you know it well also, Stratus. So let's see if I can actually pick this thing up now. It'll be neat if that was the solution. Yay, it works. Okay, cool. Good job. So the reason I don't want to put that back on is because the back that Ringo actually needs is this guy over here, which shouldn't be Paul's yard at all. In the next couple of streams, we won't be in and out of Paul's yard like this. It's just because I haven't quite got all the equipment in the right spots. So you need to go back to Ringo's yard, Ringo's farm. There we go. So you can see one of Paul's toys. Sounds pretty cool. Mod Maker's done quite a good job with it. I quite like it. I hadn't seen it before. And if the bike wasn't a miniature, it'd be a beauty as well. But I suppose it's scaled to the player. There you go. You can usually get one in, John. But I think that's where we're going to leave it today. We've had a good look at, or first look at Vintage Oaks. Introduced you to the next generation progress of the Putneys, and we'll be back here at 7:30 Thursday evening, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Thank you everybody very much for watching and for your assistance with little things along the way, and hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good week everyone. See you next time.